So good evening, good morning, good day to all of you, depending on where you are. My name is Beth Fly, and I'm Director of Admissions for the MBA at UNC program here at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And first of all, I just want to say welcome to each and every one of you for joining us this evening. As I can see from my screen, we have just an outstanding turnout for this evening's webinar. And again, I am just delighted that all of you have taken the time to join us. I think you're going to be in for a very stimulating event tonight. This is our first, as we have labeled it, the student experience presentation. And so what I'm going to do is, first of all, is to give you a quick overview of our time together and what we'll be covering tonight. So first, what I'm going to do is just to give a brief overview about MBA at UNC. Again, it will be a bit of a broad stroke brush, as I would say. And some of you may have already previously attended one of our webinars as far as the general information session about MBA at UNC. If you have not, no worries. Again, I think tonight is going to be valuable for you, and you are certainly welcome to attend one of our upcoming webinars that, again, will be more of an in-depth presentation about MBA at UNC. So beyond giving a brief overview, I will then go and feature the star of the evening, and that is, first of all, introducing Jamie DeMaria, who I'm going to tell you more about very shortly. Then we're going to open it up for questions. A few questions. I'm going to kick things off by asking 3 or 4 questions to Jamie, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. Hence, that's the whole purpose of tonight, is for you to get a really good insider's perspective about MBA at UNC. Then I'm going to just give you a quick reminder about our next application deadlines, and then we're going to wrap things up. We've allotted an hour. We certainly want to be cognizant of your time. And by the way, I'm also being very attuned to Jamie's schedule. Jamie actually has an 8 p.m. class tonight, so we want to make sure that he goes to class very prepared this evening. Okay, and on that note, I will move along and tell you a bit about MBA at UNC. Okay, so first of all, many of you probably know that MBA at UNC was recently launched. This is the newest program to the portfolio of MBA programs here at the Kenan-Flagler Business School. So we are excited and really proud to be able to offer this program. The first class was the July class, for which Jamie is an inaugural member of MBA at UNC with respect to being a new student and a current student now. And we are, again, we're a program that's very unique in nature. And the reason that we designed this program and launched this program is, as you can see on the first bullet point, this program is about a focus on working professionals. Many of you, if not all of you out there, have demanding careers, and you may have other personal responsibilities, such as family. You may travel quite a bit. And many of you are probably interested in a program that, a really top-tier solid general management program, but for reasons on your own, you're not able to literally relocate to a brick-and-mortar program, or even with a part-time or traditional executive MBA program, perhaps you still have some limitations in terms of being physically in class. So we determined that there was a strong demand out there, a market, and a need that people had in terms of wanting a career enhancement through a general management program. And going to the bottom line, that's how MBA at UNC was born. So as you can see on that first bullet point, which is what I just highlighted, it's designed for working professionals seeking an MBA from the top-ranked UNC Kenan-Flagler Business School. And we have an outstanding reputation here at Kenan-Flagler, both within and outside of the U.S. Consistently, we've been ranked in multiple rankings within the top 20 for a number of years now. The second feature I would highlight, again, maximum flexibility and accessibility. Flexibility, which I'm going to talk a little bit about the schedule, and Jamie's going to certainly talk about that. But you have the benefit of flexibility in terms of and having access to extremely, very, very rich content in terms of a general management program. The third point, again, philosophically here at Kenan-Flagler, regardless of what program that a person may be looking at, whether it's the full-time MBA or MBA at UNC or the MBA program, first and foremost, we believe that we want you to leave here with a strong foundation in general management, and that's exactly what we're going to give you. We think that's absolutely critical, regardless of what career or what particular functional role you may be in. So you're going to be more equipped, a lot more skilled in terms of being prepared as a general manager and as a leader. And then lastly, we're a program that's going to give you a very global perspective throughout your courses. And of course, that comes into play with your fellow classmates and the faculty. And you're going to have access to a global network in terms of your fellow students, other current students, and even more importantly, with the alumni network that we have here. So again, that's a bit of an overview about MBA at UNC. A couple other points that I wanted to stress. Going into the design of the program. So again, this is an online program, but the beauty is we're combining, number one, synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous, think about that word meaning group, in person. And so the experience that you're having right now would be a little bit similar to what you would experience as a current student. Very, very interactive. It's going to feel like part of the daytime program. But again, in the virtual community, you're still going to be, no pun intended, but very up close and personal with your classmates and with your faculty members. Secondly, also as part of this program, we have what we call asynchronous course content. And that means course content that you can study on your own independently. And these courses are very, very supplemental in terms to help you with your asynchronous classes. Webcam office hours, you'll have that with your faculty member, and that's going to be our faculty here. They're not just accomplished researchers, but they are first and foremost excellent teachers, and they're accessible in terms of being available to current students, and you would certainly have that. So you would be able to schedule meetings and have live interactions with faculty members. And then the fourth point, as you can see here, yes, it's a virtual campus, of course, with 24/7 access to course materials, your assignments, discussion boards, and faculty and peers. So again, that's going back to the point of giving you the most maximum flexibility and accessibility. Two other points that I wanted to stress about MBA at UNC. So first, in addition to your courses that you would be involved with, another benefit and feature of the program is what we call an Immersion Weekend. And this is a weekend where basically they're going to be on average about 3 days. We're going to offer them quarterly. And they're going to be held in different places within the U.S. and around the world, and essentially the locations are determined based on a couple of things. Number one, we want to be in key business hubs, global business hubs. And secondly, also in conjunction with that, we'll be in areas where we have a critical mass of alumni. The locations, first of all, our first one is going to be held here in Chapel Hill in December, and students will always have the opportunity to come to one in Chapel Hill in a given year. Going forward, we're looking at locations such as San Francisco, Sao Paulo, and London, just as a few examples. What these weekends are designed to do would be first to give you some interaction more in person with your classmates, faculty, alumni, business leaders in those areas. You will have some academic exercises such as integrative exercises, simulations. You will also have, which is related to the second key bullet point here, you'll have the opportunity to work on career management activities. And career management, first of all, let me just back up and say, MBA at UNC is about career enhancement. It's not the program for a person who is seeking what I would describe as a very extreme or a radical career change. So first and foremost, this is about career enhancement. However, we certainly want you to learn as many skills and strategies as possible to help you navigate and manage your career regardless of where you are in your career life, so to speak. So you will have opportunities in terms of coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching, things such as putting together an effective resume, learning how to best navigate the alumni network to help you with plans related to your career. So again, career exploration is something that's going to take place or related activities during your immersion weekends, as well as I wanted to highlight that certainly career management services are going to be available to you as a student here at MBAUNC. So those are some of the key points that I wanted to convey to you. As I can see, we've got some questions coming in, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to, after we have some questions with Jamie, I want to circle back and address some of these other questions. The other thing too, let me just take a moment to do, is I'm going to type in my email address. You're also going to see this at the end, but if you have any questions otherwise, do not hesitate to email me. So I just typed that in for you. Okay, I'm going to take a breath just for a moment, and we have, again, as I mentioned earlier, a just terrific attendance tonight. And just very quickly, could some of you just type in your text box where you are currently located? I always enjoy finding out where people are when we're conducting sessions like this. I'll just give a moment. Oh, wow. Okay. East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. Just out of curiosity, are any of you from outside of the U.S. right now? Like that. Currently in Atlanta, but currently traveling in Fort Lauderdale. All right. Okay. Puerto Rico. Okay, so well, thanks to all of you for typing that in. This is, again, we've got a terrific presentation in terms of presentation, so good to see. Okay, well now I want to introduce to all of you Jamie DeMaria, who you can probably see on your screen now. And as you can see, I've got a slide here that gives some key bullet points about Jamie's background. He is well accomplished academically. He has a PhD in neuroendocrinology and an MS in biology from Florida State. He also holds a BS in biology from the University of Notre Dame. And currently, he is the Executive Director of Strategic Management for Medscape Education, which is an LLC, and is also affiliated with WebMD, and I'm sure many of you know a bit about WebMD. And Jamie just has a very, very impressive progressive background professionally. He has over 15 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, and you will probably hear more about his prior experience as we go forward. And he currently resides in Annapolis, Maryland. But let me go ahead and tell you, Jamie and I have had a few interactions recently, and he is one of the most on-the-go individuals I have communicated with in quite a while. And again, I believe that's going to be relevant to all of you, getting back to the key point of being a working professional. In fact, I believe Jamie is, he's not at home this evening. I believe he's traveling. So as you can see, he is nodding with confirmation on that point. All right. Well, now we're going to get to the best part of the evening, and that's going to be our question and answer period with Jamie. What I'm going to do first, though, is I've got 4 questions just to kick things off and spawn some thoughts among all of you. Some questions, just a handful of questions that I'm going to pose to Jamie. So Jamie, first of all, welcome. It's great to have you here, and I know that you are going to give a lot of informative and enlightening feedback to our guests tonight. So thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
Okay. So, Jamie, my first question is one that I'm sure most, if not all, of our guests would be interested to know about you. So the first question is, what were your reasons for pursuing an MBA?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm too many people say hi directly, but so as Beth mentioned, I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for about 15 years, and have been in medical affairs, have been in marketing, and I've actually been in clinical development as well. And really, I've been using skills that you would use in everyday, business life. Forecasting. I've worked with a privately held company with a VC. We had to do a lot of business justification for spend, looking at, laying out resource allocations, whether it was human resources or financial resources. And, as you saw from my background is purely science. The only business quotes I have to my credit is a high school accounting class. And so really I was looking toward an MBA to sort of get the theory behind what I was doing in everyday practice and sort of give me the tools to think beyond, what I've sort of picked up along the way.
Okay. Cool. What attracted you to MBA at UNC? What were the key factors in your decision to join the program once, after you had been admitted?
Sure. So initially, I looked at a couple of different programs and was attracted to UNC in general because of its global focus. Past 3 years, I've been in pharma as a global medical director, heading up a medical affairs team for a privately held pharma company, had worked in about 35 countries, had launched products in China, had relabeled a product in Europe, had launched also in the Middle East and Latin America, and was really looking for the global perspective. So that was what initially attracted me to UNC, and really the MBA at UNC format provided me flexibility, as Beth mentioned, or Beth, as you said, I'm never home. Tonight will be yet another class I take from a hotel room. My classmates sort of joke, what hotel are you in this week? I don't think any of them have ever seen the inside of my house. It provided the flexibility in the platform to really, pick and choose where I could be, and be able to take class. I've done class from airline lounges, and I've done it from hotel rooms, and I did one from a boarding gate. I actually had the airline reopen the door for me once because I almost missed the flight because I was in class. So it's sort of designed for the road warrior, I guess you could say. I'm one of those, and really that was what was key, because I've been looking for an MBA program for about 5 years, and every time I came up short because I couldn't commit to either the in-residency requirement or the having to be someplace every other weekend or once a month. It was too much rigidity, even something not flexible. And this program really gave me the flexibility to sort of let it fit into my lifestyle versus having to fit my life into the program.
Great. Okay. And just as a quick acknowledgement here, I see Tide has typed in a good question. And Tide, I just want you to know that I'm going to try to get back to your question shortly for Jamie. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Jamie, describe for us your current experience with the demands and rigor of your classes right now. And just as you may want to mention what classes you're taking as well.
Sure. So it's 2 classes right now. One is Principles of Financial Accounting, which, as I mentioned, my only previous accounting experience was high school accounting. That, and I balanced a checkbook. But surprisingly, it hasn't been too bad. The workload, I'd say, the asynchronous materials is anywhere from about an hour and a half to 3 hours a week. Right now, we have a midterm coming up in about 2 weeks. It's on a Sunday, and there's a lot of practice sets. The synchronous session is about an hour and a half a week. Mine happens to be on Tuesday nights. So the classes stuff on the accounting side has been really interesting. I mean, you're talking about theoretical, and practical work. Income statements and cash flow statements, balance sheets, and determining where expenses go and whether they can be recorded, and recognizing revenues. And that's all sort of been in the first 4 weeks. And so we've really been able to. It's interesting. I think that the phrase they always use is. Close only is horseshoes, hand grenades, and financial accounting. I think that's the fact they keep telling us, because I've yet to hand in a homework set where everything balances, but yet conceptually get it, and that's what they're looking for here. They're not looking to train accountants, they're looking to train folks who can interpret financial accounting and understand where it comes from. So from that perspective, it's been great. The marketing is interesting because one of my roles, marketing reports into me at Medscape on the Medscape education side, and so we've been really doing a lot of interesting work with value chain work, market segmentation, and what was a great thing about it, 2 weeks ago we had a guest speaker, and it was the chief marketing officer for GE Financial Services of Asia, and she called in from Hong Kong, which, if we were in brick and mortar, that would be a little harder for her to do. So it was an interesting real-world experience of how, they're dealing with marketing from a financial services perspective, not only in the Asian markets, but, she was able to sort of apply it back across the globe. And I think with everything's been going on in the financial markets and with our debt ceiling limit lately, it was a timely and interesting conversation to have. So, they've done a really good job of tying it into sort of the real world, and it's been a lot of good theory, but they've also been able to tie it back into real life. And even on the accounting side, we don't work in theoretical. We work with actual, financial statements. And the last one was the Lego company. I've got 2 little boys, and they said, "Dad, you're playing with Legos this week?" I said, "No, hardly." But so it's all real life, and it's really been good.
Great. Okay. And one more question before we open it up to our guests. What has surprised you about the program thus far?
The biggest surprise is this format right here. So this is exactly what our classroom looks like when we meet in a synchronous session. And you'll notice the camera's on you, and people are watching you. And so if my eyes dart to the side, I can't tell you the number of times you're in class and someone's eyes do that, and you wonder, what are they doing? And so it's intense. I mean, when you're in a classroom environment, you can scribble or doodle and do other things, but when you're in, even though there's 100 people, this is a fairly intimate environment because you're looking right at me and I'm looking, I can see Beth, and when you've got 5 or 6 people in a class, the professor is looking at you and saying, let's go around and we're going to go through a problem set here, and everyone's going to get a chance to give an answer. So there really is very little, you can't get lost, and that was surprising to me because it's really, you really do feel like, you're interacting with these folks one-on-one, and even in office hours when you meet with the professors, it's one-on-one. I mean, you're looking at them, they're looking at you. It's almost closer to them than you would be if you were in their office across their desk.
Right. Good feedback. Okay. All right. Well, I am going to now officially open up the floor to our guests. And what I'm going to do, I know that many of you may be typing in questions. I am going to make it easy on Jamie, and I'm just going to scroll down the text box here, and just go through these questions. I will apologize up front now if I'm unable to get to everyone's questions during this hour, which leads me to a second point. Jamie has also graciously offered his email address. I'm going to put that up at the end so that if you have any follow-up questions or if for any reason your particular question is not addressed tonight, Jamie would be glad to be available for your messages. Okay. All right, Jamie, Todd Cody has a question, and he has asked, what is your workload per week? How long do you need to commit to the MBA at UNC per week? Do you find challenges balancing work and school? So basically, one question comprised of 3 key points here.
Sure. I think the workload per week is, I would say it's about 3 to 4 hours of asynchronous materials, and as long as you have an internet connection, you can watch the videos, you can stop them, rewind them. I found several times during the lectures I typically pause to maybe get something down off the slides. There's also the ability to put all the slides out and take notes on them as you go. I tend not to kill that many trees, but I know some of my classmates do. Not kill trees, but print the things out. So, I think, honestly, it's probably all said and told with homework, it's probably about 10 hours a week. And again, this is one class that I do for a living and one class that I have 0 experience in. So, take that for what it's worth. The challenge is balancing work and school. No, I mean, I run a department, but I also report to the president and our CEO. And so, they understand what I'm doing. My company is supportive of what I'm doing. And, I haven't had any problems balancing the work and the school. I've been able to schedule meetings around it. My classes are at night. They also offer courses on weekends. I also have a family, so I chose not to do them on weekends. I did choose to do them at night. But I haven't really found a ton of challenges balancing it. I mean, obviously, having a midterm on a Sunday is not ideal, but I'll get up in the morning, take my midterm, and be done with it, and sort of move on to the day. So, it is what it is, and I think there's a lot of flexibility. We've had people who make class because they're traveling or other commitments, and everything's recorded, so you have the opportunity to go back and watch it again if you missed something in the class or you missed it. But no, I haven't found it to be overly challenging to balance everything.
Okay. Michael has a question, actually a couple of questions together. So the first part is, do you always have to be on the webcam while in class? I believe you addressed that. Second part, do you find it difficult to schedule group meetings with students located in numerous time zones with different schedules?
Sure. So my one group for marketing, we are actually across all 3 time zones. There's 3 time zones. I'll say there's 3 time zones. So we have 2 people on the West Coast, 2 people on the Central, and 1 on the East Coast, or 2 on the East Coast, 1 on the Central. And no, I mean, I think we're pretty realistic about it. We actually tend to meet after class on Wednesday night for marketing. We've seemed to find a good balance of efficiency to get through the simulation. We actually work in a simulated environment where we own a company and we make decisions based on R&D, advertising, marketing, segmentation, what to go after, and things like that. Ooh, I paused. That's not a good look. So, I think that's where we are. That's getting across the different time zones has not been a challenge. And everyone's been flexible. We've had a couple of meetings where we haven't, where not everyone could join the group session, but by and large, we found it to be. People have been pretty good about making sure they can get together when the group wants to.
Okay, Jamie, just really quickly, it looks like it's just me showing up on the camera, so you may want to check your camera again. Meanwhile, I'll certainly keep going here on with questions. So Ilsa has asked, let's see, let me make sure I get all of that question here. Are professors in classrooms or also teaching over a webcam? Do you find this more or less beneficial, and why?
So the professors, when they teach, it's interesting. So the asynchronous materials are taught. If the professor, one actually teaches in a similar classroom environment, one actually does it sort of from his home, in his home office or his work office. The actual courses itself, the synchronous learning, one professor typically does it from her home office at night. Our other one is a chief marketing officer for a company based on the West Coast, and so she tends to be where she is, whether it's in a hotel room or in her office or at home. So, the webcam, like I said, this is pretty intimate. Mine's off right now. My computer crashed. It's rebooting. Good old Windows, I guess. But, it's a pretty intimate environment, and, I haven't found the webcam to be a distraction at all. And we work in this simulated synchronous environment, so there are slides that run at the same time as the video cameras are up. So no, I haven't found it to be. I've actually found it to be actually kind of interesting and neat to do.
Okay. Let's see. Next question we have here is from Artur. What is your experience with professors? Are they willing to help students succeed? Great question.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We've got, obviously the experience range, in the cohort is pretty varied. I mean, we've got a couple folks who are a few years out of college. We've got a couple folks who are sort of, I guess more like me, seasoned veterans who've been around for 15 years or so. And, there are times when, some folks just don't understand what's going on, and I found the professors have been very accommodating, whether it's, they've got regular office hours. If they can't meet, and they'll make time for you. And it's interesting. It's not like they have to be in a certain place at a certain time for office hours. You just have to be near your computer and your webcam. And so I have found the professors to be great. Absolutely committed to seeing us succeed. It doesn't benefit anybody to see somebody not succeed in this environment. So I think especially in the accounting, I think that's where, if you ask my fellow cohort mates where where the anxiety might lie right now is probably in the accounting because there's a midterm coming up in a couple weeks, but they've been great, very detailed in their explanations. When we hand in homework assignments or hand in assignments, when we do sort of the financial things, we hand them in through this learning system in PDF format, and we actually get them back with notes on them, and I'd say pretty detailed notes about what we didn't do right. And so I would say absolutely they're committed, and it's really, it's small. One professor has got 5 or 6 students, really, I'm sorry, not even 6, 5 students at a time. So, she's dedicated to the 5 of us for the quarter.
Right, okay. Let's see, next question. Okay, this is a question from Kevin Smith. With 2 classes at a time, do you feel you're making progress at an effective pace to enhance your career? And again, Jamie, we all know this is, your first quarter, but just again, from your perspective, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, the 2 classes, I think one, this maybe sounds a little sadistic, but I don't think one would be. I think it's good having the balance of sort of the accounting and the marketing at the same time. You've got sort of a hard, very very numbers oriented, very process oriented thing like accounting, to balanced out with something a little different in marketing. And it's interesting. It's not sort of fluffy marketing or brand marketing. It's strategic marketing. So we focus on market segmentation, identifying the customer, and developing products and strategies to meet the needs of the customer and the target, not necessarily, sort of doing what makes you feel good. So absolutely, I think it's helped, with sort of the way I've approached marketing and the way I've approached, sort of new product development that we do. I've been able to take some of the handouts and some of the readings and hand them off to some of the folks on my team and read this, because I think you'd find it interesting. And there was one that last week that was the top 12 things that why new products fail. And I handed it to my products person. I said, let's hope that we don't have more than half of these. It was sort of a joke, but it was an interesting read, and we actually had a discussion about it at one of our meetings. We do some of these things, and it's not good, and we've started looking at process and how we can clean that up a little bit. I mean, things that you wouldn't think of, that we didn't really, take the time to take a step back and look at as we develop, new products for our markets.
Right. Okay. Jason asked a question. How accessible have you found the Kenan-Flagler alumni network to be with current students? Jamie, what thoughts can you share with us on that?
That's interesting. It's actually been infinitely more accessible than I had ever thought it would have been. I didn't, to be honest, because I have a job, I wasn't looking at the MBA program to sort of, I'm currently employed, so I'm not looking at it as a, as something that I need to, I need to start looking for a job, because when I'm done in 2 years, I've got to find a position someplace. But the alumni network has been great. They've reached out to us several times already. I live down in Annapolis outside of D.C. I've been invited to several alumni networking events. Unfortunately, I've never been there enough, but I am in New York City tonight, where our corporate headquarters are, and there's an event here in a couple of weeks that I'm actually going to go to. So they've been very engaging, very open to having us involved, and really wanting us to be part of, the Kenan-Flagler family, if you want. That can kind of be an overused euphemism, but really, they mean it, and they've really opened up their doors. The Alumni Association has already opened up their doors, encouraged us to become members, encouraged us to get an alumni email address and to really participate, in the activities and the services they offer. Okay,
great. Jamie, I'm going to give you a breather. We have a question that is more admissions related here, so I'm going to just take the moment to address that one. So guest 12 has written, what are the requirements for admission as far as GMAT score, letters of recommendation, et cetera? How many people are per class? I'm going to give more of a nutshell response, and again, some of you, if you've got more admission-specific questions, please feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to go more in depth. Plus, our general information webinars, we definitely go into greater detail about the admissions requirements. Essentially, we take a very holistic approach in evaluating applicants, and holistic meaning we ask we're looking at a wide range of criteria for admission, and we don't weight or rank any one area, so no one area of criteria is more important than another. We're looking at all of that information collectively to make what we think is the best decision. There's no minimum in terms of a GMAT score. We look at a range of scores. We're looking at in conjunction with your undergraduate records to get a sense of your academic readiness. We look at quality of professional experience, what your goals are as far as an MBA and why an MBA from MBAUNC. We have three essay questions. Also, we ask for 3 letters of recommendation. We also require an interview, and your interview would take place in this exact format, so which makes it really nice in terms of flexibility for scheduling. So, again, we're looking at all of that information collectively. As far as how many people per class, you know, our program is going to grow over time, and we're not concerned about what is a hard number at this point. First and always, we want the best students for MBAUNC, which is, of course, the philosophy across all of our MBA programs here. So just to let you know, our first class for July, many of you may already know this, but Jamie is a member of what I think is the most critical class for the history of MBAUNC, which the July intake was our first cohort to start the program. And Jamie is in a group of 19 students, and I have let's just say I have a depth of experience in MBA admissions and very highly selective programs, and these are 19 of the most terrific students that I've seen in my career to date. So anyway, I tend to have a little bit of a bias about that, but from a professional point of view, again, quality always comes first, and that's what drives our process here. Okay, guess 12, what is the total cost of the program roughly? Again, I'll just mention this one since this is a quick response. Our tuition is $89,000, and that's for your courses, your tax. It also includes lodging and food as far as up to 4 of your immersion weekends, so that's a nice benefit there. So that's a bit about the cost. Okay. So Jenica Bridges asks a good question. Could you please speak in more detail about team projects? Are they done predominantly in an online environment? Do you present out, will you present, and I'll say will you present out during immersion weekend? So Jamie, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So, you know, everything's done through the LMS platform, the learning system that you're looking at here. We have opportunities here to share not only slides, but I could share with you our programs. Any program on my desktop I can share. There's a whiteboard that we can write on while we're at a meeting, and there's different, you know, I won't start clicking on them, but there's different ways that this platform can be configured with a bigger share piece. You know, there's different sort of setups that you can look at. We do everything collaboratively online, through the phone. The marketing class is set up into 4 teams. We're into a Sabre simulation right now, which I think if you Google Sabre simulation, you can read all about it online. They basically give you parameters. You get a couple of products, you get a budget, and they wish you luck. And so you kind of have to use what you're learning in marketing about segmentation, identifying markets. You know, we joke, don't tell them too much because you want them to know. But in all seriousness, it's not an uber competitive environment. My teammates and I joked, if you Google Sabre simulation, there was a blog written by a woman at another MBA school who said they spent, you know, hours a week doing their decisions. My team spends about 45 minutes a week. You know, we have a good plan. We split it up, and it's a collaborative effort. And you know, we're across different time zones, so it's worked for us that way. You know, we do we do sort of submissions. One person submits in, and then it's graded and sent back. So we haven't done live presentations. My understanding is when we get to the first Immersion Weekend, which this semester will not have an Immersion Weekend, when we get to the first Immersion Weekend in December, there will be materials that we will be responsible for putting together and presenting out live. So I'm sure that will, when we get there, that will happen.
Okay. So Peter Chesney has asked, I think, a really compelling question, and that is, what is missing from this program versus a brick-and-mortar program, in your opinion?
Well, the obvious stuff, right? So we're not in a classroom. We're not, in a place where there's study rooms. We're not full-time students. I mean, we all have jobs. We all have, all of us are full-time employees. And one person in my group is full-time in the Navy right now, and she's, naval training exercises at different times. One guy is head of strategy for Lockheed Martin's weapon systems. And, they're interesting to see someone from the Navy talk to one of their vendors about how those weapon systems work. So, it's really a unique, situation. I think in a brick and mortar environment, you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't have that diversity of just the students in the room. It's not, these aren't folks who've sort of taken time out of their life to, who didn't put their life on hold to go to MBA school. These are folks who, we still have jobs, we still have demands and requirements, and I could think a couple weeks back, I spent a fair amount of time over the weekend working on a presentation, for work, but still life went on with the MBA program. And, I've got two little kids, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old. It's summertime. They want to go swim. They want to do things. So it's you make it work. And I think that's the big difference. And obviously, I've never been in a brick and mortar MBA program, but did do brick and mortar for both my master's in biology and PhD. And, what's missing? I mean, we don't have, sort of a weekly, a weekly journal club where you all get together and discuss something, or a weekly presentation where there's a guest speaker that comes in. But I will say that they do offer guest speakers, the live programs, the programs that are being done on campus. They're all offering them through the internet as well and streaming them to us if we want to join in. There was one last week about the debt ceiling crisis. So, the folks in Chapel Hill are doing a good job about making sure that we're included, as regular students in the program. We have a UNC One card as soon as I get my picture in that I'm eligible for. That and some of the folks, in our course even joked about, I guess we could go down and watch UNC basketball games as students too. So, as far as, is the experience where we're considered a student like everybody else, we just aren't in Chapel Hill, or just we're someplace else. Okay.
All right. Vikram, he writes, thank you, Jamie, for taking the time to do this. Which other universities did you look into or apply at before choosing UNC?
Sure. So a couple of the programs that I had looked at, I know St. Joe's in Philadelphia offers an MBA in pharmaceutical management. Obviously, my background, I looked there. I had looked down the road, I guess, from Chapel Hill at Duke. One of my college roommates got his MBA from Duke, and then my college roommates got his MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern. I looked out there as well. I had done some research, some clinical research at Penn for a while, and I looked at Wharton, and I actually looked at the University of Maryland, which is near my house. And so those were the places I had looked, and like I had said earlier on, with what my sort of my work schedule is in my family life, even their EMBA programs didn't quite fit into what I was looking for. And so, I never really moved on it until this program came along and offered me what seemed like an ideal situation.
Okay, terrific. Let's see, here's a question, and Jamie, I'm going to come out of the gate with my thinking on this, but feel free to chime in. So the question is, this might be for Beth, is there any info available on the industry acceptability of the program versus a traditional brick and mortar program? Let me just say that a lot of due diligence and research was done in, looking at the feasibility of starting MBA at UNC. And in terms of feedback from recruiters, it was ultra positive. And let's face it, companies certainly don't want to lose top talent. Jamie is a live example of that. And so at least from what I understand from a number of colleagues here, the companies, recruiters, I use the word recruiters, and that's actually in the full-time world, but I'll just say the companies and corporate friends of UNC have certainly been just incredibly excited about this program, and especially one of this quality for their top talent. So just my perspective on that. Okay, let's see. Michael, so Jamie, here's another question from Michael. Can you expand on when synchronous classes will be offered? In this case, it seems to be evenings and weekends, but would it be possible to have a class during the average work day?
Well, so I can speak to sort of my experience, and obviously that's a question that probably gets punted back to you. But, you know, when they offered the original cohort, I know they offered classes are on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, and I believe they're on Sunday as well. Mine happened to be Tuesday and Wednesday night. It just worked for my schedule. I know when they sent their survey out originally, before they announced that, and they asked us, when did you meet? And there was talk about having an early morning class, and it looked like the times were going to be either in the morning early, we're going to be in the afternoon, in the evening, and it looked like they were looking at some lunchtime, potential around the sort of the noon hour, if you will. But I think from, with everybody, I know having a job, full-time job, it would be really hard for me to be able to say, I'm going to carve out a class at, 2 o'clock once a week. With that said, I do have a class at 7. Two of my fellow students are West Coasters, so they are taking class at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, they clearly are clearly doing that. But, that would be a question. I know when we started, they were very, tuned into that and asked us when we would prefer times and what would work for us. And I know they use those results to kind of schedule the synchronous sessions. I didn't speak to how they're going to do it in the future as the number of students. So. Right.
And you're certainly on the mark there. One of the things I was just going to add is the program sought feedback from students about, to get a sense of what would make the most sense, and I would surmise that that's going to continue going forward to be able to identify the most optimal times. Okay, Diana Berry, question for Beth. Is there any way you can watch a class to give yourself an idea of how the actual class is? Wonderful question, and let me say that we are going to be offering a webinar very, very soon for which you're going to be able to see as we describe, what the learning platform is like. And that's a great question because a lot of people out there, and Jamie, I'm sure you were in this boat at one time, wondering, what is this experience really like? And so we certainly want to give you a first-hand view of what this experience is like. So anyway, stay tuned to our website for, again, in the very, very soon, we're going to be having a session to give you a demo of that platform.
I would just add, the only thing I'd add about the LMS is it manages your life for you. I mean, I'm happy to pull mine up on a shared screen, but I know I can't do that. But there's a calendar. Your classes are on there. It tells you what everything is. There's a chat board. We've got individual groups that we belong to for our not only our class, but our groups that we have sort of real-time streaming wall chats on, about different things. Your homework assignments, all your assignments there, when things are due, how to submit them. It really is. It's an amazingly comprehensive form. I was shocked by it, and I don't have to worry about lugging a ton of things around with me. I mean, our course packets are right there online, so you don't have to print out reams of paper and lug them around with you. I do have 2 textbooks I carry when I know I need them and I can't read before I leave my house. But everything's right there on the platform, and they did a really good job building it. So I would say, if you ask a lot of my classmates, we were pleasantly surprised by the platform and really how interesting it was and how it's all right there in one spot.
Got it. Okay. Jim Mahoney, and hello to Jim. So Jim has posed a question. How many applicants have you had and how many current students possess an undergraduate degree and just recently left the military? Is this background weighed any differently than applicants coming from the private sector? So obviously I will take this question. In terms of reporting, we don't report current application figures at this time. We will in the future. Again, we're early out of the gate on that. As far as an exact number of how many students possess an undergraduate degree and left the military, so number one, an undergraduate degree is required. So 100% I can tell you 100% of all of the applicants that we saw for the July cohort had an undergraduate degree. So meaning 100% of those who were admitted and thus enrolled had an undergraduate degree. Let's see, just backgrounds of having left the military. Is this background weighed any differently than applicants coming from the private sector? Not at all. We do not take, we want people with a wide range of experiences. And that includes, and that's exactly what this first cohort represents. So, and in fact, on the military front, I believe that we have, I think it's 4 of Jamie's classmates right now that represent the military. I believe a couple of them are veterans, a couple of them are actually active duty, which is for those of you who are in the military currently, this is a wonderful program option for you to consider. So we're not going to, again, from an admission standpoint, we're looking at the quality of your experience. We're not out after a certain exact type of experience. So I hope that helps to answer your question.
Well, and I was actually going to add to that, Beth. One of my marketing teammates is actually a surface warfare officer on a ship based in San Diego, and so she's active military, is a graduate of the Naval Academy, and you know, she brings a different perspective, and it's interesting. You know, her perspective is interesting, and in her perspective, actually, you know, you can get so wrapped up in the marketing stuff. She actually grounds you a bit and makes you really sort of look at things differently. And you know, while she doesn't have a ton of business experience, she's really brought some value to our team as we've gone through some of these simulation, you know, decision making, and has brought sort of that military discipline, I'll call it, to the decision process. So it's been great, and you know, being from Annapolis, you know, where the Naval Academy is located, it's interesting having a couple of former mids in the cohort.
Got it. Good feedback. Okay. Let's see. Another question we have, beyond UNC alumni, is there any career support for individuals that do want to change industries, jobs? Are there recruiting sessions from employers, et cetera? Very good question. Again, first and foremost, this, as I had said earlier tonight, MBA at UNC is designed for career enhancement versus it's not the program for a person that wants to make a very extreme career change. You know, how do you define extreme career change? There's not an absolute black and white definition. I'm just going to give you a very quick one that I'm just sort of pulling out of my thoughts. Let's say if somebody had been working in marketing and they want to switch to investment banking, that would be, in my book, a very, very extreme career change. One of which a full-time program would be the best choice of option for somebody that had those types of aspirations. But will there be career support? As I'd mentioned earlier, absolutely. And I would just say that in terms of changing industries, changing jobs, again, I think it all depends on what has your track record been and what is it that you're thinking about in the future, whether it's short-term or long-term. And for that particular question, I just want to highlight we're really thrilled. We recently brought on board our Director of Career Management, who is exclusively dedicated to MBA at UNC. And so there are a lot of plans in progress right now for her to be working with current students, and she's also available to prospective candidates as well. Her name, I'm just going to type this up here, her name is Shelley Gorman, and I'm just going to type this in. Excuse my slow typing here. UNC. Okay, and I believe I have her correct email address. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So I just typed that up there, And any of you that reach out to her, feel free to just mention you participated in one of the sessions, and you can even go so far to say that I recommended that you contact her. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. Well, timing-wise, it looks like, assuming my laptop computer here is accurate, it looks like we have about 3 minutes left. So if any of you have any questions for Jamie, we can take 1 or 2 more questions. And again, and let me go ahead, since we are at the 7 p.m. mark, a couple of quick things. First of all, as you can see before you, I just wanted to give you a reminder about application deadlines. For our October entry, hopefully many of you are working on your applications or have submitted your applications for the August 8th deadline for the October start. Otherwise, you can see the deadlines for the January class and for the April class of next year. Okay, so those are the dates, and also we have those, of course, have those dates published on our website. And then I wanted to make sure, again, that you have my contact information, so you can see before you have my email, you have my direct line. And again, I just want to say a big thanks to Jamie for his offer to be available as far as, receiving messages via email from you. So you can see Jamie's email address before you up on the screen. Okay. Let's see, this is another question. How different are the classes in MBA-UNC versus the full-time, part-time program classes at Kenan-Flagler? Okay, very good question. And actually, the course content that was ultimately developed for MBA-UNC, it was designed primarily based on the courses for the full-time program. So again, this program is about general management. Some of you may be wondering, do I have access, can I take some elective courses? That's going to be forthcoming in the near future. But again, the core content is a general management foundation, which of course that is what we give our daytime MBA students as well as our executive MBA students. Vikram, Beth, do you offer financial assistance? We do. For U.S. citizens and permanent residents, you can apply for the federal loan program with a Stafford loan. We also offer a limited number of fellowships. And so again, if you would like more information about that, just shoot me an email or give me a call. I'm happy to talk more at length upon that. What are the entry dates per year? The dates you could probably just have seen on the website the slide that I had just posted. But what our plan is just the current plan, and this will be the intake going forward, is we will have a class that will start in July, one in October, one in January, and one in April. Okay. So there are no concentrations in any of guess 11. Let me make sure I understand your question. There are no concentrations in any of UNC MBA programs. Okay. You do have an opportunity to, with the full-time programs, to focus on, a concentrated area as far as if you wanted to have an emphasis, let's say, on finance or entrepreneurship. So with the full-time program, you do have an opportunity to do that. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up here. And again, I just want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And again, a very special thanks to Jamie, who, as we've all have learned more about, is quite the busy professional and a very busy student. So again, we want to make sure he's well prepped for his accounting class at 8 p.m. I hope this was informative for you. Again, definitely keep checking our website, in that we're going to be doing more of student experience webinars going forward. And we definitely want you to continue to have a first-hand perspective from our current students about MBA at UNC. So again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day, great evening, and again, please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. And otherwise, additional contact information, you can always reach out to our admissions team, our email box, as well as our phone number. So thanks, everyone, and for those of you who have applied for October, I'm in the midst of reading applications and look forward to reading yours again very soon. Okay, thanks, Jamie. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a good night. Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.